Wow, that was a really rich conversation.
Aren't you, Chad?
Sure. Yeah.
That story was really powerful too about the couple going through the 3 questions you came up with on the way to go see them. Just incredible. I want to ask,
and they're still together today, right? They're still together.
They are. They are. Yeah. Awesome.
It's just so great, Chad. What a compliment to you. Just how satisfying is that? It doesn't get much better than that, I don't think.
I wish they were all 15-minute ones.
I know. I know. And also successful.
Really?
Yeah.
What are some conflict styles that people might want to, might do, but not be aware of? So when they hear this, they can kind of, oh, I do that. And I do that too.
Well, we talked about avoidance. I actually think that most of my research has shown that is the primary style. And I feel like for most of us, you are, Dr. Dave. I like that.
Not me.
It's a primary style. Is that yours as well?
No.
Not you? Did you see you dive right in?
No, I'm like a sledgehammer. I just, what's wrong? So
let's think about that, right? Because that in a lot of ways is better that we're stepping into conflict. Sledgehammer metaphor, might mean that I might be coming in a little too hot.
Well, too strong
at times for people. And Liz, what do you think your conflict style is?
It could be a little bit of that avoidance because I do kind of want to just forgive and forget. There's some truth to that. I really don't mind the open arms concept.
Yeah.
And I'll take the risk, Right.
Yeah. So we've got that. We've got accommodation we talked about. One we didn't talk much about that I see a lot of people engaging is compromise, right? And what you see with this are couples that are obsessed with fairness. I actually see a lot of this on social media today, like making the marriage fairer and trying to figure out how to make it as close to 50-50 as possible. And of course, I'm all for fairness, right? I absolutely am for a shared load, but I often find that compromise comes without a lot of creativity, and it often comes with quite a bit of resentment, right? Because what I'm basically committing to is I'm going to get some of the things that are really important to me. I'm also going to give up some things that are really important to me. But the fair thing is that I got some things and I gave up some things, right? But there's a really interesting study about human beings in compromise in court mediations, right? So these are mediations where they were basically hammered to come up with an agreement before it went to a judge. And we're basically told, look, at least you made the decision instead of having the judge make the decision. That within 6 months after one of those compromises, that the parties are obsessed with what they gave up, and they tend to come with a ton of resentment. And that they're likely to go back into court where we're going to start to relitigate things again. And I think it's really fascinating human nature because they signed the agreement at the time. And my guess is that in a compromise, they felt like the things that they were getting were more valuable than the things that they were giving up. And including the fact that they got the opportunity to direct their own course in the conflict as opposed to having a judge do it for them. But we're weird about, as human beings, that like once we get something, it's not nearly as valuable to us anymore as when we wanted that thing. I don't know if you've ever found this, Rex, but I wanted a Jeep for years. I lived in Hawaii, and I just thought the coolest thing in the world was have a Jeep that you could take the top down and cruise around. And I obsessed thinking about Jeeps all the time.
I wanted a Dodge Charger, a 69. I can't.
Okay, yeah.
I'm just kidding. But no, I understand. Go ahead.
But when you get it, it wasn't that important to me anymore. Like it was for like 2 weeks. It was awesome. And then it was my car. And then it was a Jeep, which meant it broke down quite a bit.
I've had Jeep.
In Hawaii. And so the great thing about collaboration is that we're spending the extra time and energy to think about how do I get my needs met while also making sure that this solution is meeting the needs of my partner as well. And those often aren't readily apparent. Those often don't come off the top of our head. It's a lot of times it takes a lot of talking, a lot of working to it to find something creative that's going to work for both people. And when our brain is filled with fear and resentment and what have you, our brains don't really work very well from a collaborative standpoint, right? It actually takes a pretty peaceful, calm, well-functioning brain to collaborate at a high level.
Yeah, when you go into the limbic system, your emotions take over, and then you're not thinking.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so, those are the ones that I see a lot. And then competition being, right, like I'm just going to win this conflict at all costs. But I think a lot of people think, oh, it shouldn't be compromise, or it shouldn't be collaborate. It shouldn't be competition, and it shouldn't be avoidance. And it shouldn't be accommodation. It should be compromise. Great marriages are compromise marriages. And it's probably better than the other three in some ways, but I actually think the great marriages are collaborative.
I see what you mean. I love it.
I've read a really good book called Never Split the Difference by this former FBI negotiations specialist. And one of the things he said is like people, they want to give up things less than they want to gain things. So they're more hurt by giving up something than they are by gaining something, which I thought was fascinating. And it goes right along with what you're saying is these people would give up something to get something, but then they would just ruminate on what they gave up and then have to go through, arbitration again. And that's interesting. People hate giving up things. What are common conflicts that people have?
It's a great question.
I imagine for men, it's probably, sex or intimacy.
Yeah, comes up a lot. Wanting autonomy. They've been married, but they want a level of autonomy that marriage sometimes will feel confining to them in certain ways. They want the freedom to do whatever they want, regardless of the impact on their partners. I think for women, a few that come up are communication that I hear a lot. Women wanting to have deep conversations with their partners, and men often only wanting very superficial levels of communication and the lack of connection that they feel because men sometimes struggle to be vulnerable or speak about their feelings or emotions in ways that signal to a woman that you trust her and that you're engaged with her. And I feel like a lot of times I hear that as a big root to what's happening in conflict settings. Regardless of what it is, finances, we can talk infidelity, addiction, a number of things that are coming out of it. I always sort of think the root again is back to this idea that there's somehow a breach in what I expected from you, whatever I felt the sort of contractual relationship was, you breached it in some ways. And I feel very vulnerable and hurt by that breach. And it's hurting my ability to trust you or respect you in a way that I feel is essential to having a thriving marriage. And, so look, some people don't have an issue with porn, or, some people are fine splitting finances in a particular way. Some people are fine with their communication patterns, even though they might not look like what, everybody desires. Some people are fine with a sex life that may look different than what somebody else wants. But what is going to happen inevitably is that there's going to be a relational breach. And the relational breach is what's going to start this cycle downward towards destructive conflict. And again, when I don't have the tools to know what to do with the breach, and I feel quite traumatized by the breach on top of it, I let it get out of control. When often, if I were able to address it right away and say, hey, we need to talk about this. I really value our relationship right now. And I see something going on in the marriage right now that I think might be damaging it. And so we need to address it. And I want to address my part of it. And I want to have you address your part of it. And I want to work together to solve it. Man, if we could just have more conversations like that and train people like how to do that whenever that comes up, I think many, many marriages would be super strong.
Well, I loved how you mentioned, when you hear your wife come to you with an issue, you don't hear like a complaint. You hear like, hey, I'm worried about this and I want to be closer to you. I want our relationship to be better. I want us to be closer, more intimate. Ooh. And that's definitely a skill.
Disarming, right? So disarming.
Yeah, that you have to develop and be able to take the criticism or whatever it may be to fix yourself to be more there for your spouse. That was a pretty cool thing to say.
I was just at a thing last night, and a woman asked me about this relationship that she had been in, and she just didn't know what to do. She was in this place where she didn't want to leave the relationship, but every time that she felt like she got close or opened up, she got burned again. And so she was basically in a pattern of avoidance right now. I mean, she was just basically talking about, I'm stuck, in the marriage. And, I asked her, okay, like, what's the big emotion that you're feeling right now? And she's like, fear. I mean, it was great. Like, it was like scripted out, like fear. And I'm like, okay, afraid of what? If I leave, this person isn't going to be in my life anymore. And I want them to be in my life. If I open back up again, they're going to hurt me again. And so I asked her, well, what are you doing right now? And she's like, well, I'm doing nothing. And I'm like, is that working for you? She's like, it's actually worse. It's terrible. I'm in limbo. I'm torn apart every day by doing this. Well, why do you keep doing it? Well, I'm afraid, right? Either other step. And I'm like, well, what happens if you do nothing? What if you just keep doing this forever? Well, then I'm going to experience this pain the rest of my life. And so again, it's that level of acceptance and change, right? That dialectic of acceptance and change that I think is so difficult for people, right? Like, I have to accept that people hurt other people. It's part of relationship. Everybody that we know in a relationship is probably disappointed us at sometimes, have not seen us the way that we want them to see us, has not heard us the way that we want them to hear us, has not given us our identity. That's part of it. If I'm going to be in a relationship, I have to accept that I will be disappointed at times. My feelings are going to get hurt at times. I'm not going to feel seen, heard, listened to. But what I can change is continuing to try to find ways to optimize that relationship. Standing still is doing nothing. And leaving, in my opinion, in this particular case, because this wasn't an abuse case or something like this, is just mean I'm going to carry all of those same bad patterns with me. And I have to get into a new relationship at some point, and there's the potential of that person to hurt me. And then what do I do the first time that they do hurt me? I'm going to retreat back again. We have to learn how to have the resilience to step into conflict.
Can't steer a parked car and not, you're not going anywhere. So, this has been fascinating. I could talk for another hour, but
this has been great. You've been very generous with your time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks for joining us today. Hey, do us a favor and take a second to subscribe to our podcast and the Utah Marriage Commission YouTube channel at Utah Marriage Commission, where you can watch this and every episode of the show. Be sure to smash the like button, leave a comment, and share this episode with a friend. You can also follow and interact with us on Instagram at Stronger Marriage Life and Facebook at Stronger Marriage. So be sure to share with us which topics you loved or which guests we should have on the show next. If you want even more resources to improve your marriage or relationship connection, visit strongermarriage.org, where you'll find free workshops, e-courses, in-depth webinars, relationship surveys, and more. Each episode of Stronger Marriage Connection is hosted and sponsored by the Utah Marriage Commission at Utah State University. And finally, a big thanks to our producer, Rex Polanis, and the team at Utah State University, and you, our audience. You make this show possible. The opinions, findings, conclusions, and recommendations expressed in this podcast do not necessarily reflect the views of the Utah Marriage Commission.